What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about Monday Night Raw just shattered into a million pieces? What if the man who's been controlling the chaos, making the matches, and somehow keeping the superstars in line just got obliterated from his position by the very man who put him there? Ladies and gentlemen, the unthinkable has happened. Triple H, the chief content officer, the cerebral assassin, the game himself, has just made a decision so controversial, so earth-shattering, that it's sending shockwaves through every locker room, every arena, and every wrestling fan's living room across the planet. Adam Pearce, the authority figure we've watched navigate the most dangerous personalities in sports entertainment for years, has been fired as the general manager of Monday Night Raw. And this isn't some storyline work. This isn't kayfabe. The implications of this are very, very real, and what happens next could change the landscape of WWE forever. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the most explosive backstage drama WWE has witnessed in years, and trust me when I say, by the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly why this moment matters, why it happened, and what it means for every single superstar on that Raw roster. Let me take you back to where this all began, because to understand the present, we need to understand the journey. Adam Pearce wasn't always the man in the suit. Before he was making matches and trying to control egos the size of small countries, Adam Pearce was a wrestler. And not just any wrestler, he was a 5-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a respected veteran who paid his dues in independent promotions and territories when the wrestling business was still about proving yourself night after night in front of crowds that didn't care about your social media following or your YouTube subscribers. Pearce earned his stripes the old-fashioned way, and that history, that wrestling pedigree, gave him credibility when WWE brought him in as a producer and eventually elevated him to the role of general manager. For years, Adam Pearce has been the voice of reason in a world gone mad. Think about what this man has had to deal with. He's been F5'd by Brock Lesnar. He's been on the receiving end of Roman Reigns' wrath during the Tribal Chief's most tyrannical reign. He's had to negotiate with superstars who could snap him in half without breaking a sweat. He's been powerbombed through tables, speared through barricades, and verbally demolished by the best talkers in the business. Week after week, we watched Adam Pearce walk that impossible tightrope between keeping the superstars happy, keeping the show running smoothly, and somehow maintaining his own dignity in the process. And let me tell you something, the job is not easy. Being a general manager in WWE isn't just about booking matches. It's about psychology. It's about politics. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to bend. It's about understanding that every decision you make has consequences, not just for the show, but for careers, for storylines, for the very fabric of what Monday Night Raw represents. Pearce understood this better than most. He navigated the impossible waters of dealing with legends, rookies, champions, and challengers, all while trying to put on the best show possible for us, the fans. But here's where things started to get complicated. Over the past several months, cracks began to show. Small at first. Little moments that most people might have overlooked, but if you were paying attention, if you were really watching, you could see the tension building. There were matches that didn't make sense. Title opportunities that seemed to favor certain superstars over others. Controversial decisions that left fans scratching their heads and superstars fuming backstage. The whispers started circulating. Was Adam Pearce losing his grip? Was the pressure finally getting to him? Or was something else going on behind the scenes, something deeper, something more personal? Remember when CM Punk returned to WWE? That was supposed to be a triumphant moment, a homecoming that would electrify the wrestling world. And it did, for a while. But then things got messy. Really messy. The locker room tensions, the backstage politics, the questions about who was really calling the shots, all of it created an environment where every decision Adam Pearce made was scrutinized under a microscope. Was he being fair? Was he showing favoritism? Was he strong enough to handle the biggest personalities in the business? Then came the incident 3 weeks ago that might have been the final straw. Monday Night Raw, live from Chicago, and the main event was supposed to be a #1 contenders match for the World Heavyweight Championship. The build-up had been intense. Two superstars, let's call them Superstar A and Superstar B, had been at each other's throats for months. The animosity was real. The hatred was palpable. This wasn't just about a title shot, this was personal. Adam Pearce booked the match, announced it to the world, and the anticipation was through the roof. But then, 30 minutes before showtime, everything changed. According to sources close to the situation, Triple H walked into Adam Pearce's office and overruled the decision. Not just tweaked it, not just suggested a modification, completely overruled it. The match was changed. A different superstar was inserted into the spot. The reasoning wasn't clear to anyone backstage, and Adam Pearce, for the first time in his tenure as general manager, looked completely blindsided. He stood in that gorilla position, headset on, watching his authority crumble in real time. The superstars noticed. Oh, they definitely noticed. When a general manager loses the backing of the chief content officer in such a public way, it's blood in the water. Suddenly, every decision Adam Pearce tried to make was challenged. Superstars started going over his head directly to Triple H. The power structure that had been established began to collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane, and Adam Pearce, to his credit, tried to maintain control. He tried to keep doing his job, keep making the tough calls, keep being the authority figure that Raw needed. But the damage was done. Fast forward to this week. Monday Night Raw, and the tension backstage was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Adam Pearce was scheduled to open the show with a major announcement regarding WrestleMania season. The kind of announcement that sets the tone for the biggest event of the year, the kind of moment that general managers dream about being part of. The pyro hit, the music blared, and the crowd was electric with anticipation. But Adam Pearce never made it to that ring. Instead, Triple H's music hit. The game himself walked out, not in his usual confident, controlled manner, but with purpose. With intent. With the look of a man who had made a decision and wasn't going to be talked out of it. The crowd didn't know what to make of it. Was this part of the announcement? Was Triple H about to reveal something even bigger? The speculation ran wild for those few seconds it took him to reach the ring. And then he grabbed that microphone, and the first words out of his mouth sent a chill through every person in that arena and everyone watching at home. Adam Pearce is no longer the general manager of Monday Night Raw. Just like that. No build-up, no explanation, no sugarcoating. The executioner's blade came down swift and merciless. The crowd erupted, but not in the usual way. This wasn't a celebratory pop or even heel heat, this was shock. Pure, unadulterated shock. Because love him or hate him, Adam Pearce had become a fixture of Monday Night Raw. He was part of the furniture, part of the identity of the show. And now, in the span of a single sentence, he was gone. Triple H continued, and his reasoning was calculated, measured, and absolutely devastating. He talked about the need for Raw to evolve. He talked about the direction of the company moving forward. He talked about making tough decisions for the greater good of WWE. But here's what he didn't talk about: specifics. He never outlined exactly what Adam Pearce had done wrong. He never pointed to a specific failure, a specific mistake that warranted this level of public humiliation. And that, my friends, is what makes this whole situation so fascinating and so disturbing at the same time. Because if you're firing someone for cause, you lay out the cause. You make it clear to everyone why this person had to go. But Triple H didn't do that. Which means one of two things is happening here. Either Adam Pearce's failures were so obvious that Triple H didn't feel the need to enumerate them, which seems unlikely given how successfully Raw has been performing in the ratings and in live attendance. Or, and this is the more intriguing possibility, this wasn't really about Adam Pearce's performance at all. This was about something else. Something deeper. Something more personal or more political in the power structure of WWE. Think about Triple H's own history. This is a man who literally married into the McMahon family, who clawed his way from being a blue blood aristocrat character to becoming one of the most powerful executives in professional wrestling. This is a man who understands power dynamics better than almost anyone in the business. He knows that perception is reality, and he knows that when you make a move like this, you're sending a message not just to the person you're firing, but to everyone else in the organization. So what message is Triple H sending? Is he telling the roster that no one is safe, that even someone as entrenched as Adam Pearce can be removed in an instant? Is he consolidating power, eliminating someone who might have been seen as too independent, too willing to make decisions without consulting upstairs? Or is this about the future, about Triple H wanting his own person in that role, someone who will execute his vision for Raw without question or hesitation? The locker room reaction has been telling, and this is where things get really interesting. According to multiple sources who spoke off the record, the Raw roster is split right down the middle. On one side, you have superstars who felt that Adam Pearce had become too comfortable, too predictable, maybe even a little bit biased in how he distributed opportunities. These are the superstars who see this as a chance for a fresh start, for someone new to come in and shake up the status quo. They're cautiously optimistic that whoever replaces Pearce will bring new energy and new opportunities to the red brand. But then there's the other side. And this side is loud, and this side is angry. These are the veterans, the superstars who remember what it was like before Adam Pearce, who remember the chaos and the uncertainty and the feeling that anything could happen at any moment, and not in a good way. These superstars respected Pearce because he was one of them. He had been in the ring. He had felt the pressure. He understood what it meant to perform at the highest level. And more importantly, he protected them. He fought for them when corporate wanted to make cuts or changes that would negatively impact the roster. He was their voice in meetings they weren't invited to, their advocate in conversations they weren't part of. One particular superstar, who will keep anonymous for obvious reasons, was overheard backstage saying something that really captures the sentiment: "They just fired the only person in this company who actually gave a damn about us as people and not just as commodities." That's a powerful statement, and it speaks to something that often gets overlooked in the corporate world of modern WWE. These superstars are human beings. They have families, mortgages, dreams, and fears. And having someone in a position of authority who remembers that, who treats them with dignity and respect, that matters more than most fans realize. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Who replaces Adam Pearce? Because that general manager chair doesn't stay empty. Monday Night Raw needs someone to make matches, to navigate the chaos, to be the public face of management. And the speculation is already running absolutely wild. Social media is blowing up with theories, predictions, and dream scenarios. So let's break down the possibilities, because each one would take Raw in a completely different direction. First, there's the possibility of an internal promotion. Maybe someone from the production team, someone who's been behind the scenes and has Triple H's trust. The advantage here is continuity. You bring in someone who already knows the systems, knows the superstars, and can hit the ground running. The disadvantage is that it lacks the excitement factor. Fans want something new, something fresh, something that feels like a big deal. An internal promotion might be the smart, stable choice, but it's not the sexy choice. Then there's the legend option. What if Triple H brings back someone from the past, someone with name recognition and star power? Imagine if Mick Foley came back as the permanent general manager of Raw. Or what about Stone Cold Steve Austin? Yes, he's got his podcast and his other commitments, but could you imagine the ratings if Stone Cold Steve Austin was making matches and laying down the law on Monday nights? The crowd would lose their minds every single week. Or maybe someone like Shawn Michaels, who's already proven he can handle authority with his work in NXT. The Heartbreak Kid running Monday Night Raw would certainly be must-see television. But here's a wild card that almost nobody is talking about, and it's the option that might make the most sense from a pure business perspective. What if Triple H doesn't appoint a new general manager at all? What if he decides to run Raw himself directly, no intermediary, no buffer between him and the superstars? Think about what that would mean. Every decision, every match, every opportunity would come directly from the top. There would be no confusion about authority, no questions about who's really in charge. It would be Triple H's show, completely and totally, for better or worse. This option has precedent too. Vince McMahon used to run things directly for periods of time, no general manager character, just the boss making moves and asserting control. It worked then, and it could work now. But it also means Triple H would have to be present at every Raw, would have to be available for every crisis, every emergency, every last-minute change. That's a massive time commitment for someone who's also overseeing SmackDown, NXT, and the entire creative direction of the company. Here's what we know for certain: change is coming. Big change. The kind of change that alters the trajectory of Monday Night Raw for years to come. And in professional wrestling, change can be either exhilarating or terrifying, depending on who you are and where you sit in the pecking order. Let's talk about the immediate implications for ongoing storylines, because that's where this gets really complicated. Monday Night Raw isn't just a wrestling show, it's a serialized drama with dozens of interconnected storylines playing out simultaneously. And Adam Pearce was integral to many of them. He was the one announcing matches, the one making stipulations, the one whose superstars would come to when they wanted opportunities or had grievances. So what happens to all of those storylines now? Take the World Heavyweight Championship picture, for example. We're heading into WrestleMania season, which means the title picture needs to be crystal clear. Challengers need to be established, feuds need to be intensified, and the road to the biggest show of the year needs to be paved with compelling television. Adam Pearce was in the middle of orchestrating all of that. He had plans, strategies, long-term booking that was designed to pay off at WrestleMania. And now all of that is potentially in flux. The new authority figure, whoever they are, might have completely different ideas about who should be featured, who should get title shots, and what the main event of WrestleMania should look like. Then there's the tag team division, which has been absolutely on fire lately. Multiple teams are vying for championship opportunities, and the intricate web of alliances and rivalries was being carefully managed by Adam Pearce. Will the new regime continue those plans, or will we see a complete reset? And what about the women's division? Raw has some of the most talented female superstars in the world, and their stories were building toward what promised to be an incredible WrestleMania showcase. Does that still happen, or does everything get scrambled? But perhaps the most interesting question is what happens to Adam Pearce himself. Because here's the thing, he's still under WWE contract. He's still a WWE employee. He might have been fired as general manager, but that doesn't mean he's gone from the company entirely. So where does he go from here? There's speculation that he might move to SmackDown in some capacity. Maybe not as general manager, but perhaps as a producer or an on-air personality in a different role. Or maybe he goes back to NXT, where he could mentor the next generation of superstars and share all the knowledge he's accumulated over his years in the business. Or, and this is the option that would be absolutely incredible for drama, maybe he stays on Raw in a non-authority role, and we get to see the awkwardness, the tension, the underlying resentment of a man who was publicly fired but still has to show up to work every week. Can you imagine the segments? The new general manager trying to assert their authority while Adam Pearce is standing right there, knowing exactly how things used to be run, seeing every mistake, biting his tongue but not quite able to hide the frustration in his eyes. That's compelling television, my friends. That's the kind of long-term storytelling that keeps people invested week after week. And let's not forget the very real possibility that this whole situation leads to Adam Pearce having one more run as an actual in-ring competitor. He's in good shape, he's still got the skills, and there's definitely money in the story of the former general manager who was humiliated and now wants revenge. Imagine Adam Pearce challenging Triple H to a match. The student versus the mentor. The employee versus the boss. The man who was fired versus the man who did the firing. That's WrestleMania caliber storytelling right there. That's the kind of match that would have the entire wrestling world talking. Now, I want to address something that I know is on a lot of people's minds. Is this all a work? Is this just a storyline designed to create buzz and get people talking? And the honest answer is, we don't know for sure. In the world of professional wrestling, the lines between reality and fiction have always been blurred. That's part of what makes it so fascinating. But here's what I can tell you, if this is a work, it's being played extremely close to the vest. The reactions backstage seem genuine. The confusion among the roster seems real. And Triple H's demeanor when he made the announcement had an authenticity to it that's hard to fake. But even if it is a work, even if this is all carefully scripted drama designed to get us invested, does that really matter? Because we are invested. We are talking about it. We are speculating and theorizing and debating. And that's exactly what good wrestling storytelling is supposed to do. It's supposed to blur those lines, make you question what's real and what's scripted, and keep you coming back week after week.